Anubis2814 is finally responding to me. You guys excited about this? You guys excited about this exchange that's going to go down? Because I'm not. But I made a bunch of videos to him, and so it's kind of incumbent upon me to respond now that he's finally responded. Okay. Well, Anubis doesn't like it when I call him names, so I'll keep this civil, at least by my standards. But just an explanation for why I did that. An active state is an act of war. All laws are violently enforced. Laws are not suggestions. They are not recommendations. Right? They're things that you are required to do. Right? People who say they want to regulate capitalism aren't just giving a suggestion. And this goes beyond the truth value of what it is that they're saying. Right? What they're saying is that they want you to be thrown into a cage or ultimately shot if you don't go along with whatever constitutes their plan, be it taxes, regulations, whatever. Whatever their plan is, if you don't go along with it, bad stuff's going to happen to you. Or if you resist persistently, you'll ultimately be killed. Because that's the capstone, keystone, whatever. Capstone. That is the capstone of the inverted pyramid of the enforcement of the state. All other enforcement mechanisms, fines, garnishing wages, that's all predicated on the ultimate ability of the state to put a bullet in your head. Okay. Now, if people could freely associate, then economic illiteracy would not be a problem. You go your way, I go mine. If your way is really that much better, then you will prove it. And if people can freely associate, then the superior models will win out. Right? If your prescriptions are going to lead to peace, prosperity, and happiness, then anyone who wants those things are going to emulate that proposition. We should always be leery of any movement that wishes to commandeer a pre-existing structure of production. That is to say, movements that are anti-separatists. Right now, libertarians, want to control the state and eliminate the state and all that stuff. But there's also libertarian separatists in the Free State Project. Right? And so the problem comes when statists wish to impose their economic policies on those who know, or, all right, I'll be less presumptuous, those who think that they're going to fail. And now that's why I'm so hostile. I don't get this hostile when talking about anything that doesn't relate to state intervention. But personally, I would rather someone be overt about what they think about me rather than making prickish insinuations, like Anubis. Right? See what I did there? I'm being overt. Right? I could have just ended that sentence right there at insinuations, but that's not the kind of guy I am. Okay, first Anubis claims I lack a specialty in that I talk on multiple subjects. Right? I'm a jack of all trades. I lack my specialty. He doesn't know what my specialty is. Right? Get that in, what is that insinuating? Okay, so right, I talk about atheism. Right? I talk about evolution and biology and political economy, right? That's what No, I don't. That's Anubis. That's what he talks about. I just talk about political economy. So, so much for that claim, as that applies more to him than to me. Then Anubis claims that I have a massive troll army that I could unleash on him, and that's why he was skittish in responding to me. Well, I already made a bunch of videos to him. Any troll, release the trolls that I could have done has already been done. Right? He's already faced the full brunt of my troll army that I supposedly have. And moreover, if you look at my video views, right, I get about as many ratings as him, and I get more video views, but I get about as many ratings as him, right? So no, you're not the underdog, right? I have a big subscriber number, but a lot of that's a dead weight, so you're not the underdog. Nice try, though. Then he claims that I was an inspiration for him to write the Liberty Constitution, basically saying that he was inspired by me and all this stuff to be a libertarian, and then he outgrew me. I inspired him, but then he outgrew the master or something. That's the angle he's trying to play here. So just reading through the preamble of his Liberty Constitution, he says, "We, the people of the planet Earth, in the belief that any power corrupts even the greatest mind, do take responsibility for our own fate and power over our own lives, mindful of our responsibility toward creation and our fellow man, resolve to strengthen liberty, democracy, independence, and peace in a spirit of solidarity and openness towards the world." All right, so aside from the, cavalcade of cliches, that's obviously not me. And then just scanning through it, in one section he says, all local taxes are voted on by the local government. All members must report their income and records to an accountant hired by the local government, and a flat tax voted on by all members shall be collected by a treasurer. You have to report your income. Right? There's a central agency there. You have to report your income. Then they're going to have democracy and vote on the taxes from this. Okay, this is not me. Sorry, bro. If this is supposed to be me, then you didn't understand my arguments. In fact, I would guess that you didn't know the first thing, which is odd since you know that I'm an anti-statist, but you point to this minarchist crap. Not even minarchist. It's like, nowhere in this Constitution did I see any reference to polycentric law, right, or the ideological and marginal state, or the calculation problem of any state program. These are all staples of my ideology, and they're nowhere to be found in your writing. If your libertarian days were a product of my influence, you wouldn't have asserted that liberty and democracy are compatible. That's something that differentiates me from a lot of libertarians, is that I hate democracy with a passion. Now, if you think they are, if you think liberty and democracy are compatible, well, that's an argument for you to make, but don't pretend that that comes from me. Okay? But nowhere in my videos do I defend democracy, nor do I defend taxes as are commonly understood. And I definitely have never defended taxes being determined by a vote, nor have I ever defended the idea of some agency knowing how much you make. So I don't know if you're lying about me, about having been influenced by me, so that you can play the I outgrew you card, or if your listening skills are so incredibly poor that you think voting on taxes has to do with anti-statism. And does anyone here remember Napalm Tube? People go from good to worse positions all the time. And this kind of reminds me a lot of Protein View, who claims to be a former objectivist but failed to comprehend Rand's definition of morality, or of The Amazing Atheist, who was once publicly a libertarian and then makes a video conflating individualism in the philosophical sense with a prescription of social atomism, or where he claimed that all exchange was exploitative because each item has an objective value, and so one party is almost always getting the raw deal, right? So I get the feeling that these people were the stereotypical libertarian, right? That they were vulgar individualists, and now they think that because they were dumb then, that libertarians in general must be as dumb as they were, right? And I think Anubis is in this category, right? I'm overt here. I'm not making little insinuations. All right. Now I know what people are going to say. No true Scotsman, no true Scotsman. Okay, but seriously, I'll link to my book, skim through my book, and then skim through what Anubis wrote. You'll see for yourself that they are not even close. He then makes an aside at the Cato Institute because it was founded by some businessmen with less than stellar environmental records. And I featured something about the Cato Institute. But the thing is, the Cato Institute is full of minarchists and constitutionalists. I'm an anti-statist, so obviously I have some disagreements with them. I was driven to post a link to them on my blog because of the work they did on education, showing how much cheaper private schools are than public, even cheaper than most people think, because a lot of the costs of public schools are hidden. Okay, then he talks about the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is where dumb people don't know they're dumb and overestimate their abilities, while smart people underestimate their abilities. And, this is a great point. So, all those atheists who call theists names all the time, it must be because the atheists just can't grasp the nuance of the arguments for God and don't respect the complexity of the topic of theology. Now, if you want to say that I have an inflated sense of intelligence because I call you stupid, and that you're actually really smart because you don't call people names, you first need to actually point to me being incorrect before saying I'm a model case of the Dunning-Kruger effect. And as for being an expert on political economy, compared to who? Right? I mean, this is all relative. Like, are there any experts on political economy, or is the topic so huge that everyone is doomed to have their knowledge be rather sporadic? And I know what you're doing because I did it too, and that's really getting into a lot of these economic baubles. talking about effects involving advertising and psychology causing people to behave differently from Homo economicus. But one thing to keep in mind is the power of these things. Whenever you point to people, for example, getting disillusioned after being out of work and not being able to get a job because of their nervousness or depression, a question you should ask is, how did the recession of 1920 end? I'm not saying that all this stuff about people behaving irrationality, prolonging unemployment of a recession is wrong, but that the ultimate truth is base economics, and all of these other things are just ancillary effects, and they may have a dampening effect, but they don't ultimately prevent the correction, right? As we can see in recessions prior, which did not have government intervention, in which the economy got out of actually far quicker than it did in the Great Depression, which actually had a lower dip in the market as a percentage of GDP as the dip in 1920. But I'm not going to get into any of that for here. I think I actually talked about that in a video response to you. Okay. Moreover, does one need to be an expert in economics to know that, say, communism doesn't work? Right? I'm making a single claim that you don't need a state. So let's analyze that issue instead of huffing and puffing about what constitutes an expert. Now, in my video to Anubis, I linked to a source which can be clearly seen, which claims that rich people have a more stressful lifestyle than poor people. I also did a Google search for poor people more stressed than rich, and found more links saying that the rich are more stressed than the poor, and vice versa. Now, Anubis claims that this is not true in the field of psychology, and that the evidence is overwhelming that the poor are more stressed than the rich. I haven't watched his other video. Maybe he actually makes that case in that video. He does have a point there. I did bite off a little bit more than I should have. Maybe he's right about this, and he can show studies following people through their lives, showing them getting less stressed as they become wealthier, right? Obviously, he wouldn't accept a study that just shows poor people being more stressed than rich people by some metric, however they measure stress, right? Because as he says himself, stress causes poor performance, right? So he's not just going to say, oh, poor people are more stressed than rich people, proof that poverty causes stress, right? When it could be the stress that causes poverty. So it'll be interesting to see how he disentangles causation there. He then reveals where he got his various types of labor from. So maybe he'll make a video defending it or link to something that does defend it, treating labor as being divided into distinct types. If he's just talking about different actions, however you can categorize actions various different ways, and saying that doing different things have different psychological effects on the individual, well, then that's something different, right? Obviously, being Sisyphus, rolling a rock up a hill all day is going to have a different effect on you than doing something that has meaning. I can't say I'm looking forward to responding to Anubis' videos to me, but it should be interesting to the viewers. Okay, I have to admit, I listened to the NPR thing, and there was nothing I really disagreed with there. But when he was talking about people working for more things than just money, that got me thinking about an aspect of supply and demand. Now, because in a job market, the employee is actually the supplier, and the employer is actually the demand. Now, people are more willing to work in jobs that give them meaning and purpose than jobs that don't. And because of that, all else being equal, those jobs pay less. So while demand decides how much it values objects at the store, supply also decides how much it likes producing those things, over and above the input costs. And this dynamic is also seen in labor. And that may be why companies don't always give consumers exactly what they want, or one reason why they don't give consumers exactly what they want, because the company may just want to produce something else for whatever reasons we can speculate. But like I said, this is all an ancillary dynamic to the ultimate drivers of economic action, which is Homo economicus and the equilibrating mechanisms, supply and demand, all that stuff.